Hi, I'm Amelia. I've always thought of myself as a devoted wife and caring mother. But one sunny morning, while getting our garden ready for a party, I had an unexpected encounter that stirred up some old desires I thought were dead. It all started with a little act of kindness, something that sparked a flame I thought was out. I was standing on a wobbly ladder. My name's Amelia, and I've always thought of myself as a devoted wife and caring mother. But one sunny morning, while getting our garden ready for a party, I ran into someone I didn't expect, and it totally changed my life. It all started with a little kindness, something that sparked a flame I thought was dead. I was up on a wobbly ladder, draping twinkling lights around the patio. The sun painted the backyard in a golden light, which was a big contrast to the storm inside me. I was getting ready for my daughter Sophia's birthday party, something I usually did by myself. My husband, Charles, an architect who was famous for his work, was often busy with his job. He was kind of a distant part of our family life. He was waving around a little unsteadily below me, but I was draping twinkling lights around the patio, and the sun was painting the backyard in a golden hue, which was a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. I was preparing for my daughter Sophia's birthday party, a task I usually tackled alone. My husband, Charles, was an architect, and he was often consumed by his work. He was a distant echo in the symphony of our family life. He was swaying precariously beneath me, but I continued my task, accustomed to the minor inconveniences of a life lived on my own terms. Suddenly, a voice startled me, and its unexpected depth sent a shiver down my spine. "Excuse me, Mrs. Hayes. Do you need assistance?" I turned, nearly losing my balance, and found myself gazing into the eyes of Nicholas, the son of my dearest friend Eleanor. "Oh, Nicholas, thank you," I replied, trying to maintain my composure. I was in the middle of a task when I felt a sudden stir. I looked up and saw Nicholas, the son of my friend Eleanor. He was standing next to the ladder I was descending, holding it steady. Our hands touched for a second, and I felt a spark of desire. I said, "I just got here and I see you need some help." Nicholas said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. I just thought it was nice of you to offer to help." I told him, "It's no problem. Let's go to the garden." As I got off the ladder, he came over to help me. Our hands touched for a second, and I felt something start again inside. I'd been away for a while, but I could still use some help. "Hey, thanks for helping out," I said. I took him to the garden, where we started working on the decorations. I couldn't help but like being around him. He was confident and graceful, and it was exciting when he touched me. I asked him about college, but my voice sounded a little interested. As we worked side by side, I couldn't help but be drawn to him. His confident movements and effortless grace captivated me, and each accidental touch sent my heart racing with a forbidden excitement. "How's college going?" I asked, attempting to maintain a casual tone, but my voice betrayed a hint of the interest I felt. "It's going well, Mrs. Hayes," he replied. His hands deftly smoothed a tablecloth. "It's a nice change of pace from the usual mix of studies and social life, but it's nice to be back home. Everything seems calmer here compared to the bustling campus." I laughed, nervous. "I can imagine where we've all missed you. Sophia talks about you often, hopefully only good things." He replied with a disarming smile, momentarily easing the tension. "Things are going well, Mrs. Hayes," he replied, his hands gently smoothing a tablecloth. "It's a nice mix of studies and social life, but it's good to be back home. Everything seems calmer here compared to the busy campus." I laughed, my voice trembling slightly. "I can imagine where we've all missed you. Sophia talks about you often, hopefully only good things." He smiled, momentarily easing the tension that crackled between us. "Only the best, I assure you." Our eyes met for a moment, which stretched into an eternity. In that instant, I realized that a simple touch, a shared smile, could reawaken desires I thought I had long buried. As the afternoon deepened, shadows stretched across the lawn, and guests began to arrive, filling the garden with a symphony of laughter and conversation. Yet the spark between Nicholas and me was still going strong. We were connected by an invisible thread, even in the middle of the crowd and all the guests. My eyes kept going back to Nicholas. He had this charismatic presence, and he was warm and funny. He was at the drinks table and everyone was listening to him. He had this infectious laugh that you couldn't help but hear. As we crossed paths, he paused he smiled conspiratorially and handed me a glass of Mrs. Hayes. His voice was warm. I said, I saved the last glass of Sophia's favorite drink for you. He replied, thank you, Nicholas. Our fingers brushed as I took the glass from him, and I felt a familiar spark. I thought, I really need this. I took a sip, hoping to mask the blush that crept up my. He gave me a conspiratorial smile and handed me a glass of wine. Mrs. Hayes. He greeted me, his voice warm. I saved the last glass of Sophia's favorite drink for you, I said, taking the glass from him. Thank you, Nicholas. Our fingers brushed as I took the glass from him. A familiar spark ignited within me. I think I really need this, I said, taking a sip, hoping to mask the blush that crept up my cheeks. I was acutely aware of the curious glances from nearby partygoers. We drifted towards a more secluded corner of the garden, seeking refuge from the prying eyes and boisterous conversations. The dim lights and intimate atmosphere created a haven for our whispered exchanges. Our laughter weaved a tapestry of connection that set us apart from the rest of the revelers. Amelia, We started to feel like we were being watched, so we went to a more private area in the garden. The lights were low and it was romantic, so it was easy to talk in a whisper. We were laughing a lot and it felt good. Amelia started to call me by my first name and it felt good. I thought, what's life like in the suburbs? It's not all parties and home renovations. I laughed when I thought about how easily I could talk with him. I said, oh, it's a wild ride. I also said, sometimes choosing paint colors feels like the most exciting part of the day. He laughed and I could see him smiling. I started using my first name for the first time. His voice sent shivers down my spine. What's life like in the suburbs? Surely it's not all parties and home renovations. I laughed, surprised by how easily I started talking with him. Oh, it's a wild ride, I quipped. Sometimes choosing paint colors feels like the most thrilling decision of the day. He chuckled, his eyes lingering on mine a moment longer than necessary. Sounds exhilarating, he mused, his voice low and suggestive. Perhaps you need a little more excitement in your life. Before I could respond, Sophia's playful voice interrupted us. Seems like you've charmed the most important lady here, Nicholas, she exclaimed, drawing laughter from the surrounding guests. Blushing, I managed a light. Hey, it'd be great if we could hang out a bit longer. Oh, right, sure, I'd love to, but I'm not sure if it's the best idea. What? No way, you're the most important lady here, Nicholas. I'm just teasing. Oh, right, I know, I'm just messing with you. Hey, I've always liked your family, you know. I know it's great, but I'm a bit nervous too, to be honest. Nicholas shot me a quick look before talking to Sophia with a smile. Mom, I'm just keeping good company. The rest of the evening was a blur of stolen glances and, Sophia, I've always had a soft spot for your family. I said goodnight to Nicholas and my voice was steady, but my heart was pounding with a mixture of thrill and trepidation. Nicholas gave me a quick, inscrutable look before turning to Sophia with a smile. The rest of the evening was a blur of stolen glances and whispered conversations with Nicholas. Each interaction sent a jolt of excitement through me. I struggled to suppress my desire for more. His earlier suggestion and the question of needing more excitement echoed in my mind, challenging the boundaries of my carefully constructed life. As the party wound down and guests began to depart, I had a few run-ins with Nicholas that got me all worked up. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and it was kind of a bummer when the night ended and everyone started leaving. I felt this mix of relief and disappointment. The night had been more intense than I thought it would be. It made me realize that I had been holding back a lot. As I said goodbye to Nicholas, our hands kept touching. It felt like he was saying something with his touch, like he was holding on to these feelings he didn't know how to deal with. I whispered, "Good night, Amelia," and he just said, "Good night, Nicholas," but it was like he was talking to me. I said, "Good night, Nicholas," back to him. I felt a mix of relief and disappointment. The night had revealed more than I had thought it would. I had a lot of desires that I had kept hidden for a long time. Saying goodbye to Nicholas, our hands touched each other. His touch was a silent promise of unresolved emotions. "Good night, Amelia," he whispered. His voice was only for my ears. "Good night, Nicholas," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. I felt a mix of guilt and anticipation. After the party, I tried to go back to my normal life. But I thought about Nicholas every time I passed by the garden or saw the twinkling lights we had hung together. The memory of our stolen moments would come back and I would get shivers down my eye. I was in a state of constant, unrelenting thoughts about Nicholas. I couldn't escape the feeling of being trapped in a maddening cycle of memories and emotions. It was as if I was stuck in a rut, unable to break free from the infatuation with Charles, the son of my best friend. Our conversations were limited to the everyday details of our shared life, and the routine that once brought me comfort now felt like a gilded cage trapping my restless spirit. I felt like I was seeking escape from this cage, but I couldn't find the way out. I was head over heels for Charles's son as always. But this time it was different. I was used to our conversations being about the usual stuff in our lives, and they were getting me nowhere. I felt trapped, like I needed to get out. So one day I went to my favorite cafe. It's a place where I can chill out with a good book and a hot cup of coffee. When I got there, the doorbell rang and I smelled that nice coffee and pastry smell. I got my usual cappuccino and started looking around. I was looking for a quiet corner to settle in. Then I saw him sitting alone at a table by the window. I was surprised and excited to see him. I looked around the cozy cafe for a free table. I found Nicholas in a quiet corner. He was sitting with his laptop open. I was surprised to see him sitting alone at a table by the window. I looked around the cozy cafe for a free table and saw Nicholas in a quiet corner, working on his laptop. "Amelia," he said, smiling. I went over to him. My heart was beating faster and I felt warm. I went to his table trying to stay calm, but I felt nervous and excited. "Nicholas, I didn't expect to see you here," I said, sitting down in the chair opposite him. "Your smile really makes a change." He explained that he finds a change of scenery helps him focus, closing his laptop and turning his full attention to me. "It keeps things fresh," he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Care to join me for a coffee?" "I didn't expect to see you here," I said, sitting down in the chair across from him. His captivating smile caught my attention. "Yeah, a change of scenery really helps me focus," he explained, closing his laptop and turning his full attention to me. "It keeps things fresh." He paused, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "I already have mine, but thanks," I replied, raising my cup in acknowledgement. A comfortable silence settled between us. The tension from our previous encounter seemed to be forgotten. Nicholas broke the quietude, leaning in slightly, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial tone. "You know, Amelia, you're not at all what I expected. Charles's wife. To be his wife," I said, surprised. "Oh." My voice had a hint of curiosity and apprehension. "I don't know," he said, thinking about it. "I expected someone more reserved, but you're lively and engaging." I laughed, flattered and a little flustered by his unexpected compliment. "I'll take that as a compliment, Nicholas. Thank you." We hit it off right away, talking about all sorts of things we're into, favorite books, movies, and what we're each hoping to do in life. I hadn't talked with Charles about any of this in years. Nicholas was listening and saying things that made me think, you know? "I'll take that as a compliment, Nicholas. Thanks." We really connected right away, chatting about all sorts of things we had in common, like books, movies, and what we're each hoping for in life. He was so good at listening and giving me his honest opinion, and it made me feel understood and seen. When it was time to go, Nicholas leaned in close and his voice was really soothing. I loved talking with him. "Amelia, we should totally do this again sometime." I was so flattered by what he said and I felt really excited. I replied, feeling more confident than usual, and I said, "I'd love to." We said our goodbyes at the cafe door. As I walked towards my car, I felt like I wanted to see him again. I had a strong desire for that, even though it didn't make sense. Our unexpected meeting had taken us deeper into dangerous territory, and while it seemed smart to back off, I couldn't help but be drawn to him. I didn't want to give up the connection that felt so right. As days went by, I felt this mix of excitement and guilt. I couldn't stop thinking about Nicholas, what he said and how he touched me. I kept thinking about his question about needing more excitement, and it made me wonder if I was doing the right thing. The unknown, the promise of a connection that ignited a spark within me, was too strong to resist. Days passed and a tumultuous symphony of excitement and guilt played out in my heart. Memories of Nicholas, of his words and his touch, haunted my waking thoughts. His question about needing more excitement echoed in my mind, challenging the boundaries of my carefully constructed life. One rainy afternoon, as I wrestled with a frozen computer screen, frustration mounting with each passing moment, I suddenly remembered that Nicholas had mentioned his knack for solving technical problems. Before I could overthink it, I dialed his number. The phone rang and Nicholas answered almost immediately. His voice was warm and welcoming. "Hello, Amelia." "Sup?" Nicholas, I'm so sorry to bother you. I began trying to maintain my composure, but I'm having some computer issues. You mentioned you were good with these things. Could you possibly help? Of course, he replied without hesitation. I'll be right there when he gets here. You could feel the tension in the air. Nicholas sat down at the computer and I stood nearby watching his confident moves. Our shoulders accidentally touched and I felt that familiar warm feeling. He just needs to tweak a few settings. He muttered about focusing on the screen. I'll be right there when he gets here. The tension in the air was palpable. Nicholas sat down at the computer and I stood nearby watching his confident movements. Our shoulders accidentally brushed, sending a familiar wave of warmth through me. He just needs to tweak a few settings. Our faces were closer than I had anticipated, and as I gazed into his eyes, I realized that resisting the pull of our attraction would be impossible. Our lips met in a gentle yet passionate kiss, and a spark ignited between us. It quickly escalated into a fervent expression of our suppressed desires when we finally broke. Faces were closer than I thought they'd be, and as I looked into his eyes, I realized that resisting the pull of our attraction would be impossible. We kissed and a spark ignited between us, quickly escalating into a passionate expression of our suppressed desires. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless and flushed. We can't continue this, I whispered, my voice trembling. I realized I was speaking more to myself than to him. Amelia, I'm sorry, he replied. Avoiding my gaze, the weight of our transgressions settled upon us. We finished fixing the computer in silence. I was breathing heavily and my face was red when I said, Nicholas, we can't keep doing this. I know, Amelia. I'm sorry, he replied. I looked away and I could feel the weight of what we had done weighing on us. We finished fixing the computer. The air felt thick with unspoken emotions. Nicholas quickly excused himself, leaving me in a whirlwind of confusion and longing. As soon as the door closed behind him, I leaned against it, trying to collect my thoughts. Every touch, every stolen glance, every shared moment had left an indelible mark on my soul. I knew this was. The air was thick with unspoken emotions. Nicholas quickly excused himself, leaving me in a whirlwind of confusion and longing. As soon as the door closed behind him, I leaned against it, trying to collect my thoughts. Every touch, every stolen glance, every shared moment had left an indelible mark on my soul. I knew this was far from over. I'm sorry, he murmured. His gaze averted, the weight of our transgression heavy in the air. We finished repairing the computer in silence. The tension between us crackled like static electricity. Nicholas quickly excused himself, leaving me in a whirlwind of emotions as soon as the door clicked shut. This is far from over, he said, looking away. I could feel the weight of what we'd done in the air. We finished fixing the computer without saying a word. Nicholas quickly left and I felt a lot of different emotions. I leaned against the door as soon as he shut it. My heart was beating really fast and I could remember every time we'd looked at each other, every time we'd touched, every time we'd kissed, and every memory. I knew this was far from over. I tried to distance myself but I couldn't. I was leaning against it behind him. My heart was pounding and my mind was replaying every stolen glance, every touch, every forbidden kiss. Each memory burned into my soul, a testament to the undeniable connection that had ignited between us. I knew this was far from over. Weeks passed, filled with a restless yearning. I tried to distance myself from Nicholas to bury the forbidden desires that had taken root within me, but his image haunted my thoughts, his presence a constant echo in the quiet corners of my mind. Charles, as always, was consumed by his work, his emotional distance a stark contrast to the vibrant connection I had found with Nicholas. One morning as I was making breakfast, the phone rang and it was Nicholas. Amelia started talking and her voice was warm and inviting. She said that she thought we should meet up and talk. She said that she felt like we needed to discuss what happened. I was all mixed up but I couldn't deny the pull of his words. One morning I was making breakfast when the phone rang. It was Nicholas. Amelia started off by saying that he wanted to talk about what had happened and that he felt like they needed to meet up. I was all for it even though I was pretty nervous. I told him that I'd be there and he picked me up from my place. I put on a cute outfit, a green skirt that made my curves look good and a tight blouse that made me look sexy. When I looked in the mirror I thought, confident woman. Hey Nicholas. I agreed. My voice was a bit nervous. Let's meet at the Lavender Garden Cafe. I picked out my outfit carefully. A sea green skirt that showed off my curves and a tight blouse that made me think about the things I was feeling. In the mirror, I saw a confident woman, but inside I was in a storm of emotions. At the cafe, I found Nicholas waiting for me. His eyes lit up as I approached. "Alia, you look stunning," he breathed. "I admire you." My cheeks flushed with warmth and I felt it spread through my body. "Thank you, Nicholas," I replied, taking my seat across from him. "What did you?" I asked, trying to keep it together. "What do you want to talk about?" He looked at me, his eyes unwavering. "I can't stop thinking about you. I know it's wrong, but I need you to know how I feel." His confession unleashed a flood of emotions within me. My heart pounded against my ribs like a trapped bird. We talked about a lot of things. I tried to keep it together, but it was hard. He said he can't stop thinking about me and that it's wrong, but he needs to know how he feels. This made me really emotional. We talked about the things we want to do that are against the rules, the danger of what we're doing, and how to move forward. I tried to stay away from him, but it was hard. Every time I looked at him or heard him say something, I wanted to be closer to him. In the end, Nicholas said we should go for a walk, so we left the cafe. We went into a hidden alleyway with trees and flowers that smelled really good. The mood was romantic and it made things more intense between us. We were both pretty attracted to each other, but we weren't saying anything. Then Nicholas stopped suddenly and took my hand. His touch made me shiver. "I can't fight this feeling any longer," he confessed, his voice trembling with emotion. I gazed into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and depth mirroring the longing in my own heart. Without thinking, I pulled him close, my lips finding his in a desperate, passionate kiss. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me closer, his touch. It was like a fire was ignited inside me. Our lips moved in a dance of passion, his breath warm against my skin, his presence making my senses tingle. The kiss got deeper and I lost myself in the moment, forgetting about the world as we surrendered to the undeniable connection that bound us together. We were breathing heavily and our faces were close together. Our breaths mixed and his eyes showed passion and vulnerability as he looked at me. "Amelia," he whispered. His voice was low and emotional. "I can't hide this anymore. I want to be with you." I was thinking about this, but I also felt nervous. We were breathless and flushed, and our faces were close together. Our breaths mixed in the space between us. He looked at me with a mix of passion and vulnerability. "Amelia, I can't hide this anymore. I want to be with you," he whispered. I wanted to be with him too. This kiss, this forbidden connection was real, and I could no longer deny the truth of my desires. "I do too, Nicholas," I whispered back. My heart was filled with a mix of joy and worry. We stood there, embraced, savoring the moment, knowing that ULT decisions, but right then, nothing else mattered but the undeniable truth of our love. The next few days passed in a blur of stolen moments and secret meetings. We tried to stay away from each other to resist the magnetic pull that drew us together, but our desire was too strong to ignore. Each encounter, whether accidental or deliberate, they only made our connection stronger. We were drawn to each other with every shared glance and whispered word. One day as I was making dinner, Elia said, "Let's meet in the park by the old fountain. I need to talk to you." Nicholas's message made my heart beat faster with anticipation. We were both attracted to each other, and it was obvious that we wanted more than friends. I couldn't refuse when Nicholas asked to meet in the park by the old fountain. I chose a light ivory dress that made my curves look good and showed off my figure a little. As I got closer to the fountain, I saw Nicholas looking playful like always. I felt uneasy, but I couldn't stop myself. I felt his eyes on me and I felt a spark between us. It was like we were both secretly wanting each other. "Amelia," he said to me. His voice was shaking. "I can't hide this anymore. I think about you all the time." I got closer to him. We were both super nervous. Our hands touched and I could feel the electricity in the air. "Nicholas, I've been thinking about you too." I told him that I was crying, but we have to be careful because this could ruin everything. He pulled me closer and kissed me, and all the nervousness just disappeared. We met eyes and he pulled me close. His hands were on my waist and his touch sent shivers down my spine. The kiss was wild, full of desire and longing. My body responded to his touch with a mix of excitement and fear. "Amelia, I want to be with you no matter what," he whispered against my lips. His eyes, rewritten to be more casual. We spent hours together that day, strolling through the park. Our conversation was a delicate dance between hope and fear, love, and responsibility. Every word, every glance only strengthened my resolve to be with him, despite the obstacles that lay before us. Amelia, I don't want to lose you. His touch sent shivers down my spine. The kiss was a whirlwind of desperation and longing. My body responded to his touch with an intensity that thrilled and terrified me. Amelia, I want to be with you no matter what. He whispered against my lips, his eyes searching mine with an unwavering intensity. I knew our feelings were undeniable, a force that defied logic and convention. This kiss wasn't just a fleeting moment of passion. It was a declaration of our undeniable connection, a silent vow to fight for a future together. I do too, I replied, my voice trembling with. I looked for mine and I knew we were definitely attracted to each other. This kiss wasn't just a passing moment of passion. It was a declaration of our undeniable connection. It was a silent vow to fight for a future together. I do too, Nicholas, I replied, my voice trembling with emotion. But we need to be careful. We spent hours together that day strolling through the park. Our conversation was a delicate dance between hope and fear, love and responsibility. Every word, every glance only strengthened my resolve to be with him, despite the obstacles that lay before us. Amelia, I don't want to lose you. He confessed as we sat on a bench under a big oak tree. Let's meet in secret until we figure out what to do. The thought of not seeing him again was unbearable. All right, I agreed. My heart was torn between joy and fear, but we have to be careful. Our lips met again in a passionate embrace that sealed the deal. He confessed as we sat on a bench under a big oak tree. Let's meet in secret until we figure out what to do. I agreed, my heart torn between joy and fear, but we have to be careful. Our lips met again and our secret pact was sealed. His hands caressed my shoulders and I felt waves of warmth through me. I couldn't resist his desire. I reached up and touched his hair, and our bodies pressed together in a symphony of forbidden longing. Our secret meetings became our sanctuary, and we had stolen moments of intimacy. We met in secret places in the park. Our dates were a mix of passion and tenderness. We cherished each encounter, knowing that our time together was precious and our forbidden love could be taken away at any moment. One evening, as we sat beneath a blanket of stars, Nicholas, we met in secret spots in the park. Our dates were full of passion and tenderness. We cherished each encounter, knowing that our time together was precious and that our forbidden love could be taken away at any moment. One evening, as we sat under a blanket of stars, Nicholas took my hand. His gaze locked with mine. Amelia, he began, his voice soft yet filled with emotion. These past few weeks have been the happiest of my life. I never imagined I could find someone who understands me, who sees me the way you do. Tears welled in my eyes as his words echoed the sentiments in my own heart. I love you, Nicholas, I whispered, my voice trembling with emotion. We spent the evening wrapped in each other's arms, our kisses a testament to the depth of our connection. We knew that challenges lay ahead, but in that moment nothing else mattered but the love we shared, the forbidden desire that. I love you, Nicholas, I whispered, my voice shaking with how much I felt. We spent the evening holding each other and our kisses showed how deep our connection was. We knew challenges were coming, but right then nothing else mattered but the love we shared. The more we met secretly, the more our love grew. Our secret meetings were a bright light in the darkness of our lives, a place to escape the everyday that tried to kill our passion. Our love was forbidden, and it was like a dangerous dance on the edge of something wrong, but it was in those secret moments that we really came alive. During those secret meetings, each day without Nicholas felt like an eternity. We kept in touch through messages and calls. Our conversations were a lifeline in the sea of loneliness that threatened to engulf me. But I was dying to see him. We had this thing going on that we really came alive. Every day for weeks I was waiting for Nicholas to show up. It felt like an endless desert, but we kept in touch. We'd send messages and make calls. Our conversations were like a lifeline in the loneliness that threatened to engulf me. I really wanted to see him. I wanted to feel his touch. Got stronger every day. Then one afternoon, while Charles was at work and Sophia was at a friend's house, I got a message from Nicholas. It was from Amelia. It said, "I need to see you. Can I come over?" I knew the risks. I knew the potential consequences of meeting up, but as time went on he started to really want me and I could feel it. Then one afternoon, while Charles was at work and Sophia was at a friend's house, I got a message from Nicholas. It said, "I need to see you. Can I come over? I knew there were risks and that it might not be a good idea, but I couldn't resist. So I said yes. My fingers were shaking as I typed. I was excited to see him. I put on a short khaki skirt and a tight blouse, and I didn't wear a bra. I wanted it to be more intense. I replied, "Come," my fingers shaking as I typed. I felt excited as I waited for him to arrive. I chose a short khaki skirt and a tight blouse, not wearing a bra because I wanted it to be more intense when he came in. The doorbell rang and my heart started racing. I opened the door and there he was. His eyes showed how much he wanted me. We looked at each other and we knew that we were both thinking about doing something that we shouldn't. Then he came in and closed the door. Nicholas closed the door behind him and said, "Amelia, you look stunning." "Thank you, Nicholas," I replied, my cheeks flushing with warmth. "I've missed you terribly." We stood there, our gazes locked, the air crackling with unspoken desire. The tension became unbearable. "You look stunning, Amelia," Nicholas whispered. His voice was husky with emotion. "Thank you," I replied. My cheeks flushed with warmth and I felt my body respond. "I've missed you terribly." We stood there, our gazes locked, the air crackling with unspoken desire. The tension became unbearable and Nicholas closed the distance between us. His lips found mine in a passionate kiss, his hands wrapped around my waist, pulling me closer. His touch ignited a fire within me. "Amelia, I can't wait any longer," he murmured against my lips. "Neither can I, Nicholas," I confessed, my voice trembling with a mix of excitement. Nicholas closed the distance between us, his lips finding mine in a passionate kiss. His hands wrapped around my waist, pulling me closer. His touch ignited a fire within me. "Amelia, I can't wait any longer," he murmured against my lips. "Neither can I, Nicholas," I confessed, my voice trembling with a mix of excitement. Nicholas's hand slid down my waist, gently urging my skirt downwards. I felt his fingers graze my skin, sending shivers of anticipation through me as the skirt pulled at my feet. His eyes widened with desire. "You're so beautiful, Amelia," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He kissed me again, his hand. I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement as he slid his hand down my waist, gently pushing my skirt down. I could feel his fingers grazing my skin and I shivered with anticipation. He pulled at my skirt and his eyes widened with desire. "You're so beautiful, Amelia," he whispered, his voice filled with emotion. He kissed me again and his hand slid under my blouse, slowly unbuttoning it. Our bodies were pressed together, and his every touch sent waves of pleasure through me. His lips trailed down my neck, leaving a trail of fire in their wake. "Amelia, I want to be with you," he murmured, his voice filled with sincerity and longing. "I do too, Nicholas," I replied. We were sliding under my blouse and unbuttoning it. Our bodies were pressed together. His every touch sent waves of pleasure through me. His lips trailed down my neck, leaving a trail of fire in their wake. "Amelia, I want to be with you," he murmured. His voice was filled with sincerity and longing. "I do too, Nicholas," I replied. My heart overflowed with a mix of joy and fear. We couldn't hold back any longer. Our bodies intertwined. His touch was gentle yet insistent, each caress filled with love and passion. I felt every movement, every breath. A symphony of forbidden desires that consumed us both. Our movements grew more urgent. My heart raced with a mix of joy and fear. We couldn't hold back any longer. Our bodies intertwined. His touch was gentle yet insistent, each caress filled with love and passion. I felt every movement, every breath. A symphony of forbidden desires that consumed us both. Our movements grew more urgent, our passion escalating with each passing moment. His lips found mine again and again, each kiss a testament to the depth of our connection. We lost ourselves in the moment, the world outside fading away as we surrendered to the intoxicating dance of our forbidden love. When we finally came to a standstill, our bodies entwined. We were so caught up in each other that we didn't even notice the time passing. We were on the edge of our seats and we knew we were in over our heads, but it felt like home. I looked into his eyes and they showed the love and devotion I felt for him. "I love you too, Nicholas," I said, and I couldn't hold back the tears of happiness. We were both tired but happy. I couldn't believe what we had done. We lay there holding each other, enjoying the feeling of being together. We were quiet, showing how strong our connection was. Our love felt like it could do anything. We knew we would fight for our happiness no matter what. Days turned into weeks and things got a bit blurry. We were all tangled up, enjoying the warmth of each other's embrace. The silence showed how connected we were. Our love felt unstoppable, like nothing could stop us. We knew we'd fight for our happiness no matter what. Days turned into weeks, and the excitement of our secret relationship slowly turned into a nagging feeling. I couldn't stop thinking about Charles. I felt like I had betrayed the trust he put in me. He was my husband, the father of my child, and the foundation of our family. I realized that I had put everything at risk for a moment of passion. I felt really bad. I cheated on Charles with Nicholas. His eyes got really big and he looked really shocked and hurt. I couldn't stop thinking about Charles. He's my husband, the father of my child, and the foundation of our family. I knew I had jeopardized everything for a moment of passion. One evening, after Sophia fell asleep and Charles got home late from work, I decided to tell him the truth. I made a light dinner and with my heart beating really fast, I invited him to join me. He looked surprised, but he sat down at the table. His forehead was all wrinkled with concern. "What's going on, Amelia?" he asked. I asked, my voice laced with worry. "Charles, something's been off between us for a while. We've grown distant and I feel like I've lost you. I made a terrible mistake. I cheated on you with Nicholas." His eyes widened in shock and a pain etched across his features. He sat there, totally silent, processing what I was saying. "I know this is hard to hear, but I'm not looking for excuses. I was a moment of weakness. I still love you, Charles, and I want to save our family." "Amelia, why did you do it?" he asked, his voice trembling with a mix of hurt and disbelief. "That we grew distant," I explained, my voice thick with emotion. "I felt lonely and unneeded. You were so consumed by your work and we didn't have time for each other. That I made a mistake and I'm so sorry." Charles sighed, his gaze filled with sadness. "That I'm to blame too. Amelia, I didn't pay you enough attention. I thought working hard was the best way to take care of our family, but in doing so I neglected the most important thing. You." We sat in silence, the weight of our shared regrets hanging heavy in the air. Then Charles reached across the table, taking my hands in his. "We need to. Amelia, I didn't pay you enough attention. I thought working hard was the best way to take care of our family, but in doing so I neglected the most important thing." We sat in silence. The weight of our shared regrets hung heavy in the air. Then Charles reached across the table and took my hands in his. "We need to talk about this, Amelia," he said. His voice was firm yet gentle. "I need to try and fix this. I don't want to lose you or our family. You mean so much to me." I nodded, tears streaming down my cheeks. "I don't want to lose you either, Charles. We need to work on our relationship and rediscover the." "Hey, Amelia," he said, his voice serious but warm. "We need to try and fix this. I don't want to lose you or our family. You mean so much to me." I nodded, crying as I said, "I don't want to lose you either, Charles. We need to work on our relationship to rediscover the connection we once shared." We decided to seek professional help to navigate the complexities of our fractured bond. We started spending more time together, communicating our needs and desires, and slowly rebuilding the foundation of our marriage. One evening, after a particularly insightful counseling session, we decided to get some professional help to deal with the complicated issues in our relationship. We started spending more time together, talking about what we needed and wanted, and slowly fixing our marriage. One evening, after a really helpful counseling session, Charles looked at me with tenderness in his eyes and said, "Amelia, I understand why it happened and I forgive you. We both made mistakes, but I believe we can get through this. I love you and I want our family to be happy." Tears of joy and relief streamed down my face. "I love you too, Charles," I whispered, embracing him tightly. "Thank you, Amelia." He looked at me with love in his eyes and said, "I get why it happened and I forgive you. We both messed up, but I think we can get through this. I love you and I want our family to be happy." Tears of joy and relief ran down my face. "I love you too, Charles," I whispered, embracing him tightly. "Thank you for understanding and giving us another chance. Our relationship didn't magically heal overnight, but we were both committed to the process of rebuilding. We found each other again, enjoying the little things and appreciating the precious gift of our shared life. In the end, we realized that our love and our family, for giving us a second chance, I'm grateful. It didn't happen overnight, but we were both committed to rebuilding. We found each other again, enjoying the little things and appreciating the precious gift of our shared life. In the end, we realized that our love and family were the most important things in our lives. We had weathered the storm, emerging stronger and closer than before. This experience taught us to value each other, communicate openly, and never take our love for granted. We knew there would be more challenges ahead, but we were ready to face them together, hand in hand, with renewed love and unwavering support. Several months passed, and our commitment to rebuilding our marriage bore fruit. Each day was filled with new discoveries, a rekindled passion, and a deeper appreciation for the bond we shared. One evening, after a long day at work, Charles arrived home with a bouquet. Of all the flowers, I like roses best. It was a simple gesture, but it made me happy. "Hi, honey," he said, smiling, and gave me the bouquet. "Hi, Charles," I replied, crying a little. "Thank you. This is so nice." We settled on the couch, enjoying the quiet and the fact that we were alone. I leaned into him. "Amelia, I'm so glad we were able to overcome everything and find our way back to each other," Charles confessed, his voice filled with sincerity. "You and Sophia mean the world to me." His strong arms enveloped me in a comforting embrace. It was a moment of pure contentment, a realization that this was what I had always wanted. "Hi, Charles the First," I replied, tears of joy welling in my eyes. "Thank you. This is so sweet." We settled on the couch, enjoying the quiet intimacy of the moment. I leaned into him. "Hi, honey," he greeted me with a smile, handing me the bouquet. This is a simple gesture, but it filled my heart with warmth. "I love you, Charles." His strong arms wrapped around me, and I felt so at peace. It was a moment of pure joy, realizing that this was what I had always wanted. "Amelia, I'm so glad we were able to overcome everything and find our way back to each other," Charles confessed, his voice filled with sincerity. "You and Sophia mean the world to me, and I'll never let us drift apart again." "I feel the same way, Charles," I replied, gazing into his eyes. "These past few months have shown me how much I love you and how important our family is to me. I promise to always be there for you and support you in everything." We hugged, savoring the warmth of our rekindled connection. "I feel the same way, Charles. I'll never let us drift apart again. These past few months have shown me how much I love you and how important our family is to me. I promise to always be there for you and support you in everything." We hugged, enjoying the warmth of our rekindled connection. Our love had been tested, but it had emerged stronger and more resilient. We knew we could handle any challenge as long as we faced it together. The next day, we decided to spend some quality time as a family. We went on a picnic to the park where I had once met with Nicholas. Now this place held a new meaning. We'd been through some tough times, but our love had gotten a lot stronger. We were pretty much unstoppable as long as we stuck together. The next day, we decided to spend some quality time as a family. We went on a picnic to the park where I had once met with Nicholas, and now this place held a new meaning. Sophia was thrilled about the outing. Her laughter echoed through the park as we played games, picked wildflowers, and enjoyed the delicious spread Charles had prepared. Watching Charles and Sophia laugh and play together, I realized that this was true happiness, a simple joy that had been rekindled through forgiveness and understanding. As the evening drew to a close, Sophia was over the moon about the outing. Her laughter echoed through the park as we played games, picked wildflowers, and enjoyed the delicious spread Charles had prepared. Watching Charles and Sophia laugh and play together, I realized that this was true happiness, a simple joy that had been rekindled through forgiveness and understanding. As the evening drew to a close, we sat together on a blanket watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant hues. Charles held me close, his warmth radiating through me, a comforting reminder of the love we had rediscovered. "Amelia," began, her voice filled with gratitude, "I want you to know how grateful I am for everything we have. You and Sophia are the most important things in my life, and I'll never let us drift apart again. I feel the..." We sat close together on a blanket, watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant hues. Charles held me close, his warmth radiating through me, a comforting reminder of the love we had rediscovered. "Amelia," began, her voice filled with gratitude, "I want you to know how grateful I am for everything we have. You and Sophia are the most important things in my life, and I'll never let us drift apart again. I feel the same way, Charles." I replied, my heart overflowing with joy. "We've been through so much, but it has only made us stronger. I know we can handle anything as long as we face it together." We sat there, embraced, watching the sunset, our hearts beating in unison. This moment was a symbol of our rebirth, a new chapter in our lives filled with love and hope. We knew that new challenges awaited us, but we were ready to face them. Charles and I replied with hearts full of joy. We'd been through a lot, but it had made us stronger. We knew we could handle anything if we faced it together. We sat there, embraced, watching the sunset, our hearts beating in unison. This moment was a symbol of our rebirth, a new chapter in our lives filled with love and hope. We knew new challenges awaited us, but we were ready to face them. We were ready to support and love each other unconditionally. This is a story about forgiveness, love, and the strength of family. We realized that even the darkest moments could lead to light if we were willing to fight for what truly mattered. Our family had emerged from the ashes stronger and more united than ever before. We were ready for whatever life threw our way, knowing that together we could overcome anything.